There comes a moment when silence stops feeling peaceful and starts feeling like abandonment. A moment when the very air around you thickens with unspoken truths, and you realize that your niceness, your compliance, your endless accommodation has become a prison made of your own making. You've been so busy being good, so committed to being loved, that you've forgotten the sacred fire that burns at the center of your being. Your anger is not the enemy. Your anger is not the shadow you've been taught to fear. Your anger is the voice of your soul, speaking through the cracks in your false self, demanding to be heard. It is the divine feminine rising up from the depths of your unconscious, saying enough to the patterns that have kept you small, kept you silent, kept you severed from your own power. Jung spoke of the numinous, that quality of the divine that both attracts and terrifies us. Your anger carries this same charge. It is holy ground, burning with the intensity of everything you've never allowed yourself to feel, everything you've pushed down, everything you've sacrificed on the altar of other people's comfort. This is not the petty rage of the ego, thrashing about in its wounded pride. This is the sacred anger of the self, calling you home to your own truth. You are standing at the threshold of an irreversible spiritual moment. The masks you've worn, the roles you've played, the version of yourself you've performed for the world, they are all beginning to crack. And in those cracks, something wild and untamed is stirring. Something that refuses to be silenced anymore. Something that knows, with bone-deep certainty, that your compliance has cost you your soul. This is the moment when you stop apologizing for taking up space. This is the moment when you stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. This is the moment when you realize that your anger is not a flaw to be fixed, but a compass pointing you toward everything you've been denied, everything you've denied yourself. The patriarchal conditioning runs deep. From the moment you drew your first breath, you've been taught that anger is ugly, that it makes you unlovable, that it's something to be ashamed of. You've been told that good people don't get angry, that spiritual people transcend anger, that enlightened beings float above such base emotions. But this is the greatest lie ever told. Your anger is not separate from your spirituality. It is the very fuel of your awakening. In the depths of your unconscious, where Jung tells us the gold is hidden, your anger has been waiting. It has been collecting every slight, every dismissal, every moment you said it's fine, when it wasn't fine at all. It has been gathering strength, waiting for the day when you would finally be ready to listen, ready to honor what it has to tell you about your unlived life, your unexpressed truth, your unprotected boundaries. But here's what they don't tell you about awakening to your holy anger. It changes everything. Once you taste the medicine of your own rage, once you feel the power of your own no, once you experience the fierce love that drives your boundaries, you can never go back to sleepwalking through your life. You can never again pretend that your peace is more important than your truth, that your comfort is more valuable than your integrity, that being liked is worth more than being authentic. You are about to cross a threshold from which there is no return. The person you were before you honored your anger will become a stranger to you. The relationships built on your silence will either transform or fall away. The parts of your life that required your complicity will no longer be sustainable. This is the price of consciousness, the cost of claiming your power, the sacrifice required to become who you truly are. Your anger is not asking you to become cruel or vindictive. It is not inviting you to harm others or to unleash destruction upon the world. Your holy anger is asking you to become a guardian of your own sacred space, a protector of your own precious energy, a warrior for your own deepest truth. It is asking you to love yourself enough to say no to what violates your soul, even when that no disappoints others, even when that no costs you their approval. This is your invitation to stop betraying yourself. This is your call to stop abandoning your own needs in favor of keeping the peace. This is your moment to recognize that your anger is not the problem, your silence is, your accommodation is, your endless giving while your own cup runs dry is, your willingness to be consumed by others' expectations while your own dreams wither is. The journey into your holy anger is the journey into your own depths, into the parts of yourself you've been too afraid to meet. It is the path of individuation that Jung spoke of, the process of becoming who you truly are beneath all the conditioning, all the programming, all the ways you've been shaped by a world that profits from your silence. For too long, you've been living as a ghost of yourself, a shadow of your true power, a whisper of your authentic voice. But your anger is the lightning that illuminates the sky of your consciousness, showing you exactly where you've been giving your power away, exactly where you've been betraying your own soul, exactly where you've been choosing others' comfort over your own truth. The old you is dying. The accommodating you, the people-pleasing you, the endlessly giving you. She is dissolving like morning mist before the rising sun of your awareness. And in her place, something fierce and beautiful is being born. Something that knows its worth, that protects its energy, that honors its truth. Something that refuses to be silenced anymore. This is not a comfortable process. Birth never is. Death never is. And you are doing both simultaneously, dying to who you thought you had to be, and being born into who you truly are. Your anger is the midwife of this transformation, the sacred fire that burns away everything false, everything borrowed, everything that was never truly yours to begin with. You've spent so long being afraid of your anger, trying to transcend it, trying to transform it into something more palatable, more acceptable, more spiritual. But what if your anger doesn't need to be transformed? What if it needs to be honored? What if it needs to be listened to? What if it needs to be followed, like a wise guide leading you out of the wilderness of your own self-betrayal? Your anger knows things your mind doesn't. It knows where your boundaries have been crossed, where your energy has been leaked, where your truth has been compromised. It knows the difference between what nourishes your soul and what drains it. It knows when you're being authentic and when you're performing. It knows when you're living your life and when you're living someone else's version of what your life should be. This is the moment when you stop running from your anger and start running toward it. This is when you stop seeing it as the enemy and start recognizing it as the fierce guardian of your soul. This is when you stop trying to be who others want you to be and start being who you actually are. The world needs your anger. Not the toxic anger of the unhealed ego, but the sacred anger of the awakened soul. The world needs your boundaries, your standards, your refusal to participate in dynamics that diminish your light. The world needs your no as much as it needs your yes. Perhaps more so. You are standing at the edge of your own revolution. The revolution of consciousness, the revolution of authenticity, the revolution of choosing yourself. Your anger is not the enemy of this revolution. It is the fuel. It is the fire that will burn through every false structure, every limiting belief, every pattern that has kept you small. It is the sacred flame that will light your way home to yourself. The false self that you've been presenting to the world is beginning to crumble. Like an old building that can no longer support its own weight, the carefully constructed persona you've spent years perfecting is showing cracks, developing fissures, revealing the authentic soul that has been trapped beneath layers of conditioning and compromise. Jung called this the encounter with the shadow, but perhaps it's more accurate to say this is the encounter with your own light. The light you've been hiding, the light you've been dimming, the light you've been apologizing for your entire life. Your anger is not your shadow. Your silence is. Your accommodation is. Your endless self-betrayal is the real darkness you've been running from. For decades, you've worn the mask of the good girl, the nice woman, the one who never causes trouble. You've perfected the art of disappearing your own needs, of minimizing your own pain, of making yourself smaller so others can feel bigger. You've learned to smile when your heart is breaking, to say I'm fine when you're anything but, to apologize for existing too loudly, too much, too authentically. But masks, no matter how beautifully crafted, eventually become prisons. The face you've been showing the world has become a cage for your soul. And your anger is the key that will unlock the door. It is the earthquake that will shatter the false foundations upon which you've built your life. It is the storm that will clear the air, making space for something real to emerge. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of the disintegration of the persona. The persona is not who you are. It is who you think you need to be to survive, to be loved, to be accepted. It is the costume you wear to the masquerade ball of social expectations. But beneath the costume, your true self has been waiting, growing restless, growing angry at being denied expression. Your anger is not random. It is not irrational. It is not a character flaw or a spiritual failing. Your anger is intelligent. It knows exactly what it's responding to. It knows where you've been violated, where you've been ignored, where you've been taken for granted. It knows the difference between love and manipulation, between kindness and exploitation, between genuine care and performative concern. The mirror of your relationships is beginning to crack, revealing the truth about how you've been participating in your own diminishment. You've been giving and giving and giving while your own cup has run dry. You've been supporting others' dreams while your own have been relegated to the back burner. You've been holding space for everyone else's emotions while your own have been pushed down, denied, labeled as too much or inappropriate. But inappropriate according to whom? Too much for whom? The standards you've been measuring yourself against are not your own. They are the internalized voices of a system that profits from your silence, that benefits from your accommodation, that thrives on your willingness to disappear yourself for the comfort of others. Your anger is showing you the roles you've been playing that were never meant for you. The role of the rescuer, always available to fix others' problems while your own go unaddressed. The role of the people pleaser, contorting yourself into whatever shape others need you to be. The role of the emotional caretaker, responsible for managing everyone else's feelings while your own are seen as inconvenient, disruptive, unwelcome. These roles felt safe once. They felt like love. They felt like belonging. But they have become shackles, binding you to a version of yourself that is only half alive, only partially real, only conditionally acceptable. Your anger is the part of you that refuses to be conditional anymore. It is the part of you that demands to be loved for who you are, not for what you do or what you provide or how convenient you make yourself. The false self is beginning to starve. It cannot survive on the meager diet of external validation you've been feeding it. It cannot thrive on the crumbs of approval you've been grateful to receive. It cannot sustain itself on the exhausting performance of being who others want you to be. It is collapsing under the weight of its own unsustainability. And as it collapses, something wild is emerging. Something that has been buried beneath years of conditioning, beneath layers of shoulds and musts and good girls don't. Something that remembers its own worth, its own value, its own right to exist exactly as it is. Something that knows the difference between being loved and being used, between being valued and being taken for granted. Your anger is the voice of this wild thing, this authentic self that has been caged for so long. It is speaking through the cracks in your composure, through the moments when you can't hold it together anymore, through the times when "I'm fine" gets stuck in your throat because it's such a lie that your body refuses to speak it. This is not the anger of destruction. This is the anger of creation. This is not the anger of revenge. This is the anger of reclamation. This is not the anger of hatred. This is the anger of love, love for yourself, love for your truth, love for the life you came here to live, not the life you've been performing. The old contracts are being torn up. The unconscious agreements you made to be less than you are in exchange for love, approval, belonging, these contracts are being dissolved by the fire of your awakening anger. The relationships built on your silence are being challenged. The dynamics that required your self-betrayal are being exposed. The patterns that demanded your smallness are being confronted. This is terrifying for everyone who has benefited from your accommodation. They will try to shame you back into silence. They will tell you that your anger is ugly, that it's not spiritual, that it's not like you. They will try to convince you that you're being dramatic, that you're overreacting, that you're making a big deal out of nothing. But your anger knows better. Your anger knows that nothing you've been angry about is actually nothing. Your anger knows that your pain is valid, your boundaries are sacred, your truth is worth defending. The false self dies hard. It will fight for its survival, trying to convince you that it's safer to stay small, easier to keep accommodating, more comfortable to maintain the status quo. It will whisper that your anger is dangerous, that it will cost you everything, that no one will love you if you show your true face. But these are the lies of a dying system, the desperate attempts of a false identity to maintain its control over your life. Your anger is not killing your capacity for love. It is killing your capacity for self-betrayal. It is not destroying your relationships. It is destroying the false foundations upon which some of your relationships have been built. It is not making you less spiritual. It is making you more authentic. And authenticity, Jung reminds us, is the path to wholeness, to individuation, to becoming who you truly are. The masks are cracking. The roles are being abandoned. The false self is crumbling. And in its place, something magnificent is emerging. Something that has been waiting your entire life to be born. something that knows its worth, something that refuses to be silenced anymore. You are standing at the spiritual threshold now, at the point of no return. Behind you lies the familiar territory of accommodation and self-betrayal, the comfortable prison of your people-pleasing patterns, the well-worn paths of saying yes when you mean no and I'm fine when you're not. Ahead lies terra incognita, the unknown landscape of your authentic self, the wild territory of your unleashed truth, the mysterious realm of living from your own center rather than from others' expectations. This is what Jung called the call of the self, that deep, insistent voice that rises from the depths of your being, demanding that you stop living a borrowed life and start living your own. Your anger is the messenger of this call, the urgent telegram from your soul that can no longer be ignored, can no longer be rationalized away, can no longer be transformed into something more palatable for public consumption. The threshold is liminal space, neither here nor there, neither who you were nor who you are becoming. It is the space between, the pause between breaths, the moment when the old self dies and the new self has not yet been born. It is uncomfortable, disorienting, and utterly necessary. You cannot step into your power while still carrying the baggage of your powerlessness. You cannot claim your truth while still honoring your lies. You cannot embrace your anger while still committed to being nice. Standing at this threshold, you can feel the magnitude of what you're about to leave behind. The version of yourself that everyone knows, the role that feels so familiar you've forgotten it's a role, the patterns that have defined your relationships for so long they feel like love itself. You can feel the pull of the familiar, the seductive whisper of the known, the comfort of staying small even when small has become a slow death. But you can also feel the call of the unknown, the magnetic pull of your own truth, the fierce joy of imagining what your life could be if you stopped betraying yourself at every turn. You can sense the freedom that waits on the other side of your fear, the aliveness that beckons from beyond your comfort zone, the wild beauty of a life lived from your own center rather than from others' needs. This is individuation. Not the selfish pursuit of personal desires, but the sacred journey toward psychological wholeness, toward becoming who you truly are beneath all the conditioning, all the programming, all the ways you've been shaped by a world that profits from your compliance. Your anger is not the enemy of this journey. It is the fuel. It is the fire that burns away everything false, everything borrowed, everything that was never truly yours to begin with. The door between worlds is opening. On this side, you are still the woman who says yes when she means no, who apologizes for existing too loudly, who makes herself smaller so others can feel bigger. On the other side, you are the woman who knows her worth, who protects her energy, who honors her truth even when it disappoints others, especially when it disappoints others. You can see through the doorway now, catching glimpses of who you could become. The woman who trusts her anger as a compass, who follows her rage like a wise guide leading her out of the wilderness of self-betrayal. The woman who says no without explanation, who sets boundaries without apology, who chooses herself without guilt. The woman who has learned that her peace is not more important than her truth, that her comfort is not more valuable than her integrity, that being liked is not worth more than being authentic. But crossing this threshold requires a kind of death. The death of the false self, the death of the people-pleaser, the death of the woman who has spent her entire life trying to be what others need her to be. This death is not metaphorical. It is visceral, cellular, complete. You cannot take your old self with you into your new life. You cannot carry your patterns of self-betrayal into your era of self-honor. You cannot bring your commitment to being nice into your commitment to being real. The crossing requires courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of fear. It requires faith, not in an external deity, but in the wisdom of your own soul, in the intelligence of your own anger, in the sacred guidance of your own truth. It requires trust, not in others' approval, but in your own worth, in your own judgment, in your own right to exist exactly as you are. As you stand at this threshold, you can feel the old self beginning to dissolve. The mask is slipping. The role is becoming too small to contain you. The false self is running out of energy to maintain its performance. And in its place, something wild and untamed is stirring, something that has been waiting your entire life to be born. This is the moment when you stop asking permission to be yourself. This is the moment when you stop apologizing for taking up space. This is the moment when you stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. This is the moment when you realize that your anger is not a flaw to be fixed, but a gift to be honored, a compass to be followed, a wise guide to be trusted. The crossing is irreversible. Once you step through this doorway, once you claim your anger as holy, once you honor your rage as sacred, you can never go back to sleepwalking through your life. You can never again pretend that your silence is more important than your truth, that your accommodation is more valuable than your authenticity, that being liked is worth more than being whole. But the crossing is also liberating. On the other side of this threshold, you are free. Free from the exhausting performance of being who others want you to be. Free from the suffocating prison of your own compliance. Free from the slow death of self-betrayal. Free to live your life from your own center, according to your own values, in service to your own truth. The door is open. The threshold is before you. Your anger is calling you home to yourself. The question is not whether you are ready. You will never feel ready for this kind of radical transformation. The question is whether you are willing. Willing to die to who you thought you had to be. Willing to be born into who you truly are. Willing to honor your anger as the sacred messenger it has always been. The old world is ending. The new world is beginning. And you are the bridge between them, the one who will carry the medicine of your authentic self from the realm of the hidden into the realm of the manifest. Your anger is not the enemy of this crossing. It is the key. It is the sacred fire that lights your way home to yourself. Step through. The other side is waiting. Your true self is waiting. Your holy anger is waiting to be honored, to be followed, to be trusted as the wise guide it has always been. The crossing is before you. All that remains is to take the step. Living from this new frequency feels like learning to breathe underwater. Everything you once knew about how to move through the world has been turned upside down, inside out, completely reimagined. The woman who once said yes to everything now finds herself saying no with surprising ease. The woman who once apologized for existing now takes up space without explanation. The woman who once dimmed her light now shines with an intensity that both attracts and repels, drawing some closer while sending others scrambling for the exits. Your anger has become your inner compass, no longer something to be feared or transcended, but something to be consulted, honored, trusted. It speaks to you in whispers now, not the explosive outbursts of the unhealed shadow, but the quiet wisdom of the integrated self. It tells you when someone is trying to manipulate you, when your boundaries are being tested, when your energy is being drained by dynamics that no longer serve your highest good. Jung spoke of the transcendent function, the mysterious process by which the unconscious and conscious minds begin to work together, creating something new, something that is neither purely instinctual nor purely rational, but beautifully, powerfully integrated. Your anger has undergone this transformation. It is no longer the raw, unprocessed emotion that once threatened to overwhelm you. It has become refined, distilled, transformed into something that serves your evolution rather than your destruction. The inner voice that emerges from this integration is unlike anything you've ever heard before. It is not the voice of the superego, constantly criticizing and comparing. It is not the voice of the wounded child, desperately seeking approval and validation. It is the voice of the self, capital S, the deep, centered, authentic you that has been waiting your entire life to be heard, to be honored, to be lived from. This voice knows things your mind doesn't. It knows which opportunities are meant for you and which are distractions. It knows which relationships nourish your soul and which drain your life force. It knows the difference between inspiration and obligation, between authentic desire and conditioning, between your truth and everyone else's version of what your truth should be. Living from this new frequency means that your relationship with time itself has changed. You are no longer in a hurry to prove yourself, to achieve everything, to become someone worthy of love. You have discovered that you were always worthy, that your worth was never in question, that the very seeking of worthiness was the trap that kept you small. Now you move through your days with a different rhythm, a different pace, a different relationship to urgency and pressure. Your relationship with other people has transformed as well. You are no longer available for every crisis, every drama, every person who wants to dump their unprocessed emotions into your energetic field. You have learned to distinguish between empathy and enabling, between compassion and codependence, between being loving and being used. Your anger has taught you where your energy ends and others begins, where your responsibility ends and others begins, where your healing work ends and others begins. The people who were drawn to your accommodating self are often confused by this transformation. They want to know where the old you went, when you're going to stop being so selfish, when you're going to go back to being the person they could count on to sacrifice yourself for their comfort. But the old you is not coming back. She has been composted, her nutrients feeding the soil from which your authentic self has grown. She was never meant to be a permanent resident in your life. She was meant to be a temporary shelter while you gathered the courage to build a home that actually fits who you are. Your anger has become your guardian, your protector, your fierce advocate. It no longer asks permission to exist. It no longer apologizes for its intensity. It no longer tries to be pretty or palatable or appropriate. It simply is a force of nature, a natural response to violation, a healthy immune system response to toxicity, a sacred fire that burns away everything that is not aligned with your highest good. This new frequency you're living from is not always comfortable for others. Your boundaries make people uncomfortable. Your standards make people uncomfortable. Your refusal to participate in dynamics that diminish your light makes people very uncomfortable. But their comfort is no longer your responsibility. Their feelings about your transformation are no longer your concern. Their approval is no longer your goal. You have learned that you cannot save yourself by saving others, that you cannot heal yourself by healing others, that you cannot find yourself by losing yourself in service to others' needs. The archetype of the wounded healer has taken on new meaning in your life. You are no longer wounded in the old ways, no longer bleeding your energy into others' wounds, no longer trying to heal others as a way of avoiding your own healing work. You have become a healer who has done her own work, who has faced her own shadow, who has integrated her own anger, who has learned to love herself fiercely and completely. And from this place of wholeness, you can offer others something much more valuable than your wounds. You can offer them your wisdom, your strength, your example of what it looks like to live from your own center. Your anger has taught you that boundaries are not walls. They are bridges. They are not ways of keeping people out. They are ways of keeping yourself in. They are not punishments. They are protections. They are not signs of your lack of love. They are signs of your abundance of self-love. They are not barriers to intimacy. They are the very foundation upon which real intimacy can be built. Living from this new frequency means that your tolerance for inauthenticity has dropped to zero. You can spot a performance from a mile away. You can sense when someone is trying to manipulate you with their pain, their neediness, their victim stories. You can feel when someone is trying to use your empathy against you, when someone is trying to guilt you into accommodating their dysfunction. And your anger rises not in explosive outbursts, but in clear, clean responses that protect your energy and maintain your integrity. The mundane moments of your life have become sacred. Making coffee in the morning is now a ritual of self-care rather than a rush to caffeinate yourself for another day of self-betrayal. Setting boundaries with difficult people is now a practice of self-love rather than a conflict to be avoided. Saying no to requests that don't align with your values is now a celebration of your growth rather than a source of guilt. Your anger has become your teacher, your guide, your wise elder. It has taught you the difference between reaction and response, between emotional dumping and emotional expression, between being triggered and being activated. It has shown you how to use your intensity as fuel for your transformation rather than as a weapon against yourself or others. It has revealed the sacred nature of your own fierce love, the holy fire that burns at the center of your being. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of the integration of the shadow, not the elimination of the difficult parts of ourselves, but the transformation of those parts into allies, teachers, sources of power and wisdom. Your anger was never your enemy. It was your teacher in disguise, your guide wearing the mask of destruction, your healing wearing the costume of chaos. Living from this new frequency is not about being perfect or having it all figured out. It is about being real, being authentic, being unapologetically yourself. It is about trusting your anger as a compass, your boundaries as sacred, your truth as worth defending. It is about choosing yourself not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of service, service to your own soul, service to your own evolution, service to the healing of the world that happens when each of us stops betraying ourselves and starts living from our own center. The integration of your holy anger has not made you hard or cold or uncaring. It has made you more loving, not less. But it is a different kind of love. A love with boundaries. A love with standards. A love that refuses to enable dysfunction. A love that insists on truth. A love that will not sacrifice itself on the altar of others' comfort. This is the love that heals, the love that transforms, the love that liberates both the lover and the beloved. Your anger is no longer your enemy. It is your ally. Your boundaries are no longer your weakness. They are your strength. Your truth is no longer your burden. It is your gift. You have learned to honor the sacred fire within you, to trust the wisdom of your own rage, to follow the guidance of your own fierce love. And in doing so, you have not become less spiritual. You have become more human. You have not become less loving. You have become more authentic. You have not become less kind. You have become more real. This is the new frequency you are living from, the frequency of integrated wholeness, of honored anger, of sacred boundaries, of unapologetic authenticity. It is the frequency of the self, the frequency of truth, the frequency of love that is fierce enough to say no, strong enough to stand alone, brave enough to disappoint others in service to its own integrity. The cost of this transformation has been everything you thought you were. The false self, the people pleaser, the woman who said yes when she meant no. She has died 1,000 deaths, each one more liberating than the last. The relationships built on your silence have either transformed or dissolved. The parts of your life that required your complicity have been revolutionized or abandoned. The patterns that demanded your smallness have been confronted and conquered. But the reward has been everything you actually are. The authentic self, the woman who knows her worth, the one who honors her anger as holy. She has been born from the ashes of your old life, phoenix-like and blazing with the fire of her own truth. The relationships that honor your wholeness have deepened and strengthened. The parts of your life aligned with your authentic self have flourished and expanded. The patterns that celebrate your bigness have been cultivated and nourished. Jung spoke of the mysterium conjunctionis, the sacred marriage of opposites that creates something new, something that transcends the limitations of either pole. Your integration of your holy anger represents this sacred marriage, the union of your fierce love with your tender heart, your warrior spirit with your compassionate soul, your protective instincts with your generous nature. You are no longer torn between being nice and being real. You have found a way to be both loving and boundaried, both kind and authentic, both compassionate and self-protective. This integration has not been easy. There have been moments of doubt, moments when the old patterns called to you like sirens, promising the familiar comfort of self-betrayal. There have been relationships that ended, opportunities that were lost, parts of your life that had to be grieved and released. There have been times when you wondered if you were being too demanding, too intense, too much. But your anger has been your faithful companion through all of this, reminding you that you are not too much. You are exactly enough, exactly as you are. The inner freedom that comes from this integration is unlike anything you've ever experienced. It is not the freedom to do whatever you want without consequence. It is the freedom to be who you truly are without apology. It is not the freedom from responsibility. It is the freedom to respond from your authentic self rather than from your conditioned patterns. It is not the freedom from relationship. It is the freedom to relate from wholeness rather than from woundedness. Your anger has taught you that freedom is not the absence of boundaries. It is the presence of the right boundaries. Freedom is not the elimination of standards. It is the establishment of standards that honor your truth. Freedom is not the abandonment of care. It is the redirection of care toward what truly matters, starting with yourself. The presence you bring to the world now is different. You are no longer performing presence. You are embodying it. You are no longer trying to be present. You are present. The difference is palpable. People can feel the shift in your energy, the groundedness of your being, the authenticity of your expression. Some are drawn to this new frequency. Others are threatened by it. But that is their journey, not yours. Your anger has become your gateway to presence. By honoring your anger, you have learned to honor all of your emotions. By trusting your anger, you have learned to trust yourself. By following your anger, you have learned to follow your truth. And in doing so, you have discovered that your emotions are not obstacles to your spiritual development. They are the very path of your spiritual development. The wholeness you have achieved is not the absence of parts. It is the integration of all parts. Your anger is part of this wholeness, not an exception to it. Your boundaries are part of this wholeness, not a contradiction to it. Your fierce love is part of this wholeness, not a departure from it. You have learned that you do not need to be perfect to be whole. You need to be authentic. You do not need to be nice to be loving. You need to be real. This is the great paradox of integration. By accepting your shadow, you have found your light. By honoring your anger, you have discovered your love. By setting boundaries, you have created space for intimacy. By saying no to what doesn't serve you, you have made room for what does. By choosing yourself, you have become available for others in a way that is sustainable, healthy, and truly loving. The shadow work that Jung spoke of is not about eliminating the difficult parts of ourselves. It is about integrating them, transforming them, learning to work with them rather than against them. Your anger is proof of this possibility. It has been transformed from a destructive force into a creative one, from a source of shame into a source of strength, from an enemy into an ally. Your journey into the depths of your holy anger has been a journey into the depths of your own soul. You have met parts of yourself that you never knew existed, discovered strengths you never knew you had, uncovered wisdom you never knew you possessed. You have learned that your anger is not separate from your love. It is love wearing a different face, love protecting what is sacred, love saying no to what violates the sanctity of your being. The call to consciousness that your anger represents is not a call to perfection. It is a call to integration. It is not a call to transcend your humanity. It is a call to embrace it fully. It is not a call to be someone else. It is a call to be more yourself than you have ever been before. Standing here now, integrated and whole, you can see the gift that your anger has been. It has been your guide out of the wilderness of self-betrayal. It has been your teacher in the school of self-love. It has been your guardian in the journey toward authenticity. It has been your companion in the work of becoming who you truly are. Your anger is holy. It always was. It always will be. Not because it